Hi, welcome back. In this series of sessions, we are looking at Datasphere topics in detail. Today's session is the second one in this series, and it's a continuation to my previous topic. In my previous session, I was talking about introduction to Datasphere, and I've given an overview of Datasphere features and different apps provided by SAP for data extraction and transformations in Datasphere. We have also talked about some of the apps that are available for us to create models like fact, dimension, and analytic models by IT. And also we have seen Business Builder where business can build similar models with less coding and less IT support. Today's session, we're going to talk about data flows in detail. So data flows is an object. Data flow is an object that can be created in Data Builder, and this is an ETL object. By creating data flow, we can extract and then transform and load the data into one of the objects in Datasphere. Could it be a physical local table in Datasphere? It's a pretty typical ETL object that is needed for data transformations or integrations in Datasphere from several sources. Some of the transformations like filter, join, union, and aggregation are available as operators. So you can create a data flow using these operators and do the transformations and load the data into a target table or local table in Datasphere. Let's create a data flow in my Datasphere tenant or instance here. So I have my folder created in ITCOE space. So this is the default space that is available to me as part of this guided experience instance. And then I have a folder created in my previous session. In this folder, I've created another subfolder called tables, and then I have uploaded the table data from CSV files from my local machine. It was already done in my last um, session. In today's session, I'm going to go to the data flows and create a new data flow. This is a folder, and inside this data flow, I'm going to create a new flow. And when I go into the data flow, I can create a data flow for the source objects that are within Datasphere. So yesterday, we have got several local tables created, and I can use those local tables to transform the data and make it to the data warehouse layer with enriched data from other dimension tables that I can do. Um, or I can even get the data from other sources like HANA Cloud or data warehousing system like BW or any other SQL Server connections or systems as well. Let's take a look at how do I get the data from a source. So when I switch from repository to the sources, I see the connections folder, and there are some connection pre-exist in this guided experience service. This is not going to be the case when you are working in your production or in your free trial account, because these connections are prepared and given by SAP as part of guided experience. So I'm going to use one of these connections and get the table data from those connections. So for my this particular exercise, I'm going to pull some data from HANA Cloud. This is the HANA Cloud connection, and then I'm going to, you can see several schemas here. I'm going to pull or open HC dev. There is a schema. I'm going to bring one of the tables from there. Let's take HTB sales to the canvas. This is getting the table metadata onto the interface. So I can pull some transformations data. I can, for example, if I wanted to do a projection to this one. So projection, as the term sounds very similar to the object in HANA calculation views. So we can relate these two objects in a very close ways. For example, so if I wanted to apply a filter in my graphical CV modeling in native HANA, I do this using projection. So similarly, I can do the filter in the projection node of data flows. So I'm going to click on the projection one and then switch on the details. You can see the columns. There are 7 columns in this table. And then you can see a filter tab in here. And as you do some calculations in projection, you can also do those calculations, add a calculated column, and then apply your calculations in this particular column. For example, if I wanted to add another column saying revenue, for example, that's a revenue. So you can say number or decimal, and then say 5.2, which is fine. And then you can have the calculation defined in this expression. My revenue can be a calculation with a price and quantity multiplied. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to take the price and then multiply that with the quantity. So you by typing in, so you can see the code completion. Price is coming up as the available value, and then put star, and then the other one is quantity. So when I press code completion, it's going to give me the syntax. So price is being multiplied with quantity. It's part of this calculation. This is a calculation for the new column. Okay, my revenue calculation is being added as a new column, and then I have a filter column. So in this example, I'm not taking a filter expression and apply it to this one, but I will apply a filter in my next example by creating a new data flow. So I'm good with this one, with a new created calculated column. I'm just going to switch on the details, and there's an error that says that you can click on this one to see what is error, but I know that this needs a target table to be there. So I can bring in the target table if I already created either in the repository or from the connection. Since I don't have a table readily available, I can create a template table by doing this one, add table. This is going to take the template of these 8 columns and then prepare a table for me. There's still another error message. It says if I click on and it says these details, it says enter a valid precision for the column revenue. My column revenue was not having a good precision, so I'm going to go to the columns 8 and then revenue. So I wanted to see the right precision for the price. It's 18 and 0, and then let's say quantity, it's int. So I'm going to put this as 18 as the precision for the revenue. By clicking on that arrow, I will be getting into the revenue column, and then I can say decimal and then precision 18 and 0 scale. All good. I validated it now, and then my validation error is gone. I switch off the details, and then I have the table definition as also another error. So I'm going to open it and then say details page, and then this error is the target table is not created and deployed. So there's no table with that name table 1. I'm going to say this is HC HANA Cloud Sales Data table. So that's created. It's going to create, since this table is not there, I'm going to create and deploy this table with all the columns that are taken from the template. So create and deploy. This is going to take a while, and then a new table is going to get created in my Datasphere. I don't need this one. I'm going to get the details switched off. And then I want my deployment of the table has been completed. Now I am good to save it, save the data flow. I'll put it as a name, SCDF sales. That's my name for the data flow. Once the data flow has been saved and it's good for deployment. So I'm going to click on the deployment symbol and then this gets created in the database. So let's do the deployment. My deployment is in progress. Once the deployment of this data flow is completed, I can run it. It's completed. Now I'm going to run it. So it's going to initiate a data integration job. And you can see the run status. It's running. You can see the status here, or you can go to the monitor. So you can also navigate to the monitor from data flow data builder and access the data integration monitor, and then access the data flow job. Here you can click on the flows and then you can see all the flows that were created in the system. It's just one flow and in the status of it is still running. So you can see the details of the job by clicking on the details, and you can see this is being completed. So now I can go back to my data flow and check the data in the table. So for that, I will switch back to my data builder, or I can go to the repository explorer and then access my data flow and then open it and can find my target table. Or I can even go to the target table and check the data directly. It's also, that is also okay. Or I can even check the data preview for SC sales right here in the data flow itself. So it's prepared. You can see the revenue has been calculated as price times quantity. In my next example, I'm going to take my local table data and apply some transformations to it. So this is, in this example, I've shown you to get the data from different sources. Could it be HANA Cloud or data warehousing system like BW or even ERP systems? But for my next few sessions, I will use my local tables as the source because I have more control on the data sets that I have loaded. So, but it doesn't really matter. You can still use the data sources from your source connections, the way we have done in this example. But it's up to you. This doesn't really matter, but it's your comfort on how much you are familiar with the data in those either the local tables or these remote tables from the connections. Okay, so I'm going to close this one and then create a new flow. This time I will use my local tables for creating the data flow. So I'm going to go and then say data flow. Instead of connections, I'm going to go to the repository and open my COE dev folder, bring the tables in here. This time I'm going to take the sales transactions table, that's transactional data, and then I'm going to add a join. In order to join, I also need another table, which is going to be my product, or I can actually get the year data from time dimension. So for that, I'm going to go to the COE dev and get my tables. Okay, maybe it's not here. It's in the outside. Here I'm going to get the time dimension day. That's going to be time dimension day here. Bring in here, and then I wanted to join this date column in or transaction date column to the date dimension table and get the year from there. So for that, I pull the join node and connect my sales transaction to the left, and then connect my second one to the right operand. I'm going to configure the join details here. Select this one and then switch on the details. So you can see this, it's type left join, and then I'm going to propose or establish the join condition here. Here you can see transaction date will be mapped to the date SQL in here. That's done, and then I am good with my details. So let me format it. So yeah, my join condition has been completed. All the 10 plus 9 columns are now part of join. If I don't want some of the columns, I have to explicitly remove those columns. Otherwise, it's going to take every column as part of the join output. So for that, let me put the projection here in projection. I'm going to connect to this join output to the projection. So this error will go away and this error will remain as new. And then until I get this connection, this to the target table, it's still going to appear like this. So open the projection details, and then so you get to see 19 columns. If I don't want some of the columns, here is my chance. I can say remove the column. I just need year column in here. I also wanted to apply a filter here. So I wanted to apply a filter on year so that it's going to be just bring in the year from the columns. So go to the column and then say year. And then the year comes here into the expression and say year is 2022 only. So with that filter, only 2022 data will be loaded to the target. So I'm going to remove this. So I applied a join and also a filter using projection, and I also removed some columns from the projection. So I've done several, and I can create a new column, which I've done in my previous session. So it's just, or I can have an aggregation defined to summarize the revenue at certain level. But I think this is I've gone through at least 3 of these different operators, and then I'm going to add a target. So if I already have a target with this structure, I can do. If I don't, I can create a template table just like the way I did it before, and then make the template table deployed. So let's click on the details and then ask me to deploy. The table name will be data flow template for sales. This one, let's get create and deploy. This has been deployed. You can also see the mode. There are 2 options, actually 3 options: update, truncate, and delete. So these options will be chosen when you're doing either you append it or delete it and truncate it. Okay, now the status is deployed, and this is used as a target. And you can see the mappings for each column in the bottom of the screen. So, okay, all good now. I switch off the details and then I do the same save action and then deployment and then run this one as to, so I can say DF for sales for 2022. The data flow is being saved successfully, and then I can deploy it. It's deployed and then I can run it. You can check the integration state, the job status in the integration monitor, and also see the detail logs as it finishes. Okay, I don't need it. It's going to complete it in few seconds. I can come back here and then check the status as completed. So if we go back to the repository explorer and then look at my table and open the table, this is my local temp table that just got created. And then I'm going to select it and do the data preview. You can see the data is being filtered only for 2022. The other years of data is filtered out. So this is another example, which is used to extract and transform the data and load it into a target table. In my previous example, I've hard-coded my filter to 2022, but you can create an input parameter in my data flow so that you can make this execution dynamic. For example, when I apply my filter in the details, I got an option to choose input parameters. So currently there are no input parameters available in order to use. Let's create an input parameter for the same scenario. So click on the data flow anywhere, not on any of the nodes, and then you can access the properties of the data flow. Here you can see the status and every other property. You can see input parameter. There are currently no parameters available. Click on edit and then create a parameter for you. So you can say year, p year, string, I think, yeah, the number as a string, that's fine. And the default value is 2022. And if I just wanted to get some other value, I can still do that. So I'm going to go to the projection and apply the filter now. So here, input parameter, instead of 2020, click on it and it gets to the expression and then validate it. No errors found. So I'm going to say save it, saved, and then deploy it, and then run it. So this time it's prompting me to choose a password. So I'm going to say 2021, sorry, the prompt, and then I'm choosing 2021, and the data flow is being triggered to run it for 2021 as the filter, because as that is the input parameters input given by execution user. So you can go to the data table, remote table, and check now. Then it's going to be 2021 data set will get loaded as part of this new run. That's everything about data flows as part of this today's session. And the next session, so I'm going to go and talk about more about scripting in the data flows using Python. That's all for today, and we'll connect again in the second part of this data flow development in Data Builder. Thank you. Bye for now.